Remember those times when you were young and you were bullied by so-called friends in school, and you had a bigger brother in the same school who normally come to your defense and protect you and make sure that you're secure and no one trouble you? It is also in our innate nature as human beings to feel protected, to feel that we have a presence around us that will stand for us and be our defender. Having a sense of security is very important to us as human beings. Good morning, saints, and welcome to the Dixon's Devotions with Pastor Dixon. Today we will be looking at Psalms chapter 48. Psalms chapter 48. Now, Psalms chapter 48 is one of those psalms that were written to the sons of Korah. As mentioned, a song of psalms to the sons of Korah. And we know that this is a psalm, which is a song, and rightly so. And we know the word psalms means song played with the accompaniment of musical instruments. So it was a song that was to be sung with musical instruments. And no one knows exactly who wrote the psalm. Some say it was David, dedicating the tabernacle, but we know that the tabernacle was already dedicated by Moses. Some say when he bought the threshing floor at Ornan, when he conducted the censer and God was upset. Some say that the psalm was written during the time of Solomon when the temple was dedicated, and others seems to indicate that it was a time of deliverance and victory during the time of King Hezekiah from Assyria and Sennacherib, or during the time of King Jehoshaphat, the deliverance God wrath during the time of King Jehoshaphat. But nevertheless, most commentators agree that Psalms 47 is a continuation or connected to Psalms 46. Both of them sing praise to the protection of God and the deliverance over his city. This psalm is divided in three parts. From verse 1 to verse 3 talk about praise of God over his city. From verse 4 to verse 8 speaks of the perplexed nations concerning the city. And from verse 9 to 14 speak of God's presence and protection for his city. Now we know that Jerusalem, Israel, especially Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, is the most important real estate in the world. Battles have been fought over that city from ancient time even to this day. Many of the wars taking place in the Middle East is surrounding Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the iconic city, the most revered city, and at the same times, in contrast, the most battled, inflicted city. So Jerusalem is where God stamped his name. That city will be forever. Even though they went through many wars, many strife, many struggles, that city will abide forever. God's presence is there. A lot of the prophetic passages of scripture surrounds Jerusalem. In order for us to understand the future, Jerusalem is the key. But in spite of all of that, the city is where God stamped his presence, the only city that God said will abide forever It will be the capital city of the world. In spite of all the different strife, struggles, captivities, destruction, rebuilt, Jerusalem will remain forever and ever. If you want to know the surety of the Bible, look at the surety of Jerusalem. Jerusalem will never be a city that will be destroyed completely. Now, before we go into the Psalms, if you like the content on our YouTube channel, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and tell a friend about our channel. Now let's get back into the word. The praise of God's people over the city, from verse 1 to verse 3. Now reading from the New Living Translation. How great is the Lord, how deserving of praise in the city of our God, which sits on his holy mountain. It is high and magnificent. The whole earth rejoices to see it. Mount Zion, the holy mountain, is the city of the great King. God himself is in Jerusalem's towers, revealing himself as its defender. Here the psalmist is talking about praising God for his protection and presence in the city. How great is the Lord, how deserving of praise in the city of our God. As I said, this psalm is also connected to Psalms 46. There was a rejoicing over a great battle, and some most put it between either the battle, the taunting of Assyria, and the Sennacherib when they came and surrounded Jerusalem, and God wrought a magnificent victory, or during the time of King Jehoshaphat, when God again wrought a magnificent victory against the Ammonites and the Moabites during that time. Now, at the same time, it said, how great is the Lord, how deserving of his praise in the city of our God, which sits on his holy mountain. Now, here this is talking about Jerusalem, and some people think it is connected also to the temple, and the temple is in Jerusalem on the holy mountain. Remember, the holy mountain where Jerusalem is the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah, right there is the Temple Mount. Now Mount Moriah is the same place where the temple is presently located. It's the same place where where Abraham went and tried to kill his son, right there on the mountain, his son Isaac. And God tell him no. God provided a sacrifice. And later on, when David went to censor the nation of Israel and God decided he's going to kill him, God asked him to buy the threshing floor of Ornan. Right there, Mount Moriah, that's where the temple was supposed to be built. And right there, Mount Moriah is where the temple is built in Jerusalem. So that place is bought by God with a price. David bought it with money. And that's the place where Abraham sought to kill his son. He was bought with blood. And right there, God is worshipped in Jerusalem. And it's a special spot for God. So many people think is the Mount of God right there. And God was protecting the city. When we look at this passage of scripture, most likely the temple was already built. But here the psalm is concerning the entire city of Jerusalem. But yet it talks about the towers of the city, the beauty of the city, and so on, that God's name is there, God's presence is there, and no one will eventually totally eradicate and destroy the city. When the psalm was written, God defended the city, and we know that God will defend Jerusalem. Yes, the city was punished because of the disobedience of its inhabitants on many occasions, but Jerusalem still stands, and it's still the hotbed today. and in the future it will be the capital of the world forever and ever. Now the psalmist goes on to say how great is the Lord, how deserving of praise in the city of God. Because God has protected the city and delivered the city during, we don't know what battle it was, whether under Hezekiah or under King Jehoshaphat. They said God is greatly to be praised in the city because God protect that city, which site is on his holy mount. In other words, Jerusalem is around the holy mount, Mount Moriah. It is high and magnificent. It is at Jerusalem. You have the holy mount in the center, high and magnificent. The whole earth rejoiced to see it, and we know that many people travel all over the world even to today to go to the holy city, to go to Jerusalem, just to see it, because the awe, the wonder, especially those of us who are Christians, even the Muslims fighting over the city, the Jews fighting over the city. It's the most central of all the major religions of the world. Mount Moriah, the city of David. So it is the city of our great king. Who is our great king? God is talking about, not so much the king living there, but God. God himself is in Jerusalem's tower, revealing himself as its defender. But when you look at the tower, it speaks of the defense and the protection of God. Now, apparently, Jerusalem was not in captivity at this time, so it is prior to the Babylonian captivity. The kings of the earth joined forces and advanced against the city. Now here we're going to look at the second part of the psalm, which speak of the perplexed enemies of the city. The perplexed enemies of the city. Here it seems as though again God has delivered the city from a great battle. And the kings of the earth, they join forces. And as I said, most people think that it could be under again King Jehoshaphat, when there was a confederacy of nations with the Edomites and also the Ammonites against Jerusalem. And we know that God wrought a great victory. So Psalms 46 to consider is also directly connected here. So they said the kings of the earth joined forces and advanced against the city. But when they saw it, they were stunned. In other words, when they came up against it and when they were ready to defeat it, they were stunned. They were terrified and ran away. In other words, it's like when they came, they were so perplexed of the city. It almost seems like the presence of God stunned them and they ran away. They were gripped with terror. As these intimidating bullies, they were intimidated by God of Israel, and as a result of that, God delivered the city. 7 goes on to describe how God destroyed them. He destroyed them like the mighty ship of Tarshish, shattered by a powerful east wind. In other words, they were so overwhelmed and destroyed by the presence and power of God. And this is a victory where the children of Israel did not have to fight, and just the power and the presence of God destroyed them. And in verse 8, we had heard of the city's glory, but now we have seen it ourselves, the city of the lords of heaven's armies. It is the city of our God. He will make it safe forever. He said, we heard of the city. These are the people saying, we heard of it, the enemies. But now we realize it's the city of glory. And the people of the city is saying, hey, look, it is the city of God. He will make it safe forever. But now we have seen it ourselves. Now when they came, the perplexed nation, they see it for themselves. The city of the Lord of heaven's army. It is the city of the Lord's heaven. It is protected by the host of heaven. It is the city of our God. He will make it safe forever. So we know that also prophetically Jerusalem will be safe forever. The Jerusalem is the city of God forever. One city in the world, not London, not Washington, not the Kremlin there in Russia. None of these Paris, none of these cities in the world will ever outlast Jerusalem. Jerusalem will be the abiding city forever and ever. From verse 9 now, it goes on to what we call the presence of God in the city. Oh God, we meditate on your unfailing love as we worship your temple, as your name deserves. Oh God, you will be praised to the ends of the earth. Your strong right hand is filled with victory. Let the people of Mount Zion rejoice. Let all the towns of Judah be glad because of your justice. Go, inspect the city of Jerusalem. Walk around and count the many towers. Take note of the fortified walls and tower all the citadels, that you may describe them to future generation. For that is what God is like. He is our God forever and ever, and He will guide us until we die. So here, from verse 9, we see the psalmist is saying, Oh God, we meditate on your unfailing love. We will your love, because how you protect us in the city as we worship in your temple. So most likely the temple was already erected, and God delivered the city from being destroyed by an enemy. As your name deserves, oh God, you will be praised to the ends of the earth. God will be praised to the ends of the earth in the city. Your strong right hand is filled with victory. Your strong right hand is filled with victory. Let the people of Mount Zion rejoice. Let all the towns of Judah be glad because of your justice. In other words, we're saying, hey, God, right hand, God, power and presence is there in the city. And now the psalmist is telling all the young people, all the visitors, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, go around the city, look at it, remember it, and tell it to your children, generation after generation, how God protect our city, the beauty and the splendor of the city. It was not just only beautiful, but the beauty of the city was because of the presence and the power of God, who sat in the holy Mount Moriah, in the temple, and the glory of God, the Shekinah glory, overshadows the city. And God's power and protection was there. For that is what God is like. He is our God forever and ever, and He will guide us until we die. In other words, God will guide them until He dies. Now, how to put this in perspective? When we look at the city of Jerusalem, God, that was God's holy city, and it's God's holy city physically here on earth. Spiritually, the church is where God resides. But not only that, our city, God's now, the temple of God, dwell in our hearts. Those of us who are born again, those of us who know Christ, the temple of God is in our heart. We are the temple of the living God. And when we put our trust in Him, God promised to protect us, and God will deliver us many times from the enemy that come against us. Once we put our trust in Him, it doesn't mean that we will not face battles where we're going to feel defeated. Remember, Jerusalem was captured many times. The city was destroyed, burned many times, and it was rebuilt again many times. No matter what Satan tried to do over and over, when he feel like he have the city down, Jerusalem always rebound and bounce back. And so it is in our life. Once we know Jesus Christ and He resides in our hearts, we are the temple of the living God. We're going to struggles, we're going to difficulty, but we will bounce back. Trust God. Put your confidence in God. Tell it to your children. Have a testimony to your children. Tell them, look at my life. Look at the things I went through. all that I went through, but look, I'm here, I'm still here standing because of the grace of God. And even when I die, God, I will live forever because I will rise again, because Jesus Christ rose victorious from the grave. So I will rise again and live forever. So saints, this is a testimony of God abiding love forever in your life. And he said he is our God forever and ever, and he will guide us until we die. Until we die, God will be there for us. And even after we die, we will rise again to live forever, and we will abide with him forever. Saints, what a beautiful psalm. Hope you have a wonderful week, and may the Lord's blessings be with you.